Good morning, everyone, and thank you for attending today's webcast, Achieve Excellence with vMobile and Oracle. Syclo and Ventureforth would like to welcome joint customer Mark Andrews as he gives his personal testimonial about his company's mobile success and plans for the future. My name is Melody England, and I will be the host for today's webcast. There are just a couple of things that I'd like to go over before we get started. All of the phone lines are on mute to prevent background noise from interfering with the webcast. And with that being said, if you wish to communicate with the presenters or myself, feel free to use the Q&A box for all your questions. We will then save your questions about the presentation for the end, and we will be conducting a Q&A session. The duration of the webcast is expected to be approximately 45 minutes. And after the webcast, we will provide everyone with a link to the recording of today's presentation, which includes both the audio and the slides. And also, we will be conducting a poll question during the webcast, so we would like to please ask you to participate by answering the poll when we get to it. And now I'd like to introduce our presenters. First speaking is the EVP of Alliances at Syclo, Jeff Kleben. In his current role, Jeff is responsible for international sales and alliances. He works with Syclo's partners such as SAP, IBM, Motorola, AT&T, and Accenture to deliver complex mobile applications that are easy to deploy and maintain. We also have the VP of Global Alliances at Ventureforth, Pat Rudolph. Pat has more than 20 years of experience in the networking, telecommunications, and software industries, and extensive experience in successfully creating technology solutions for Fortune 500 companies and several of the world's largest telecommunications service providers. And our guest speaker today is IT Program Manager Mark Andrews. Mark has over 20 years of experience leading engineering and operations. Mark's background leading large product development teams combined with frontline account management experience fuels his passion for innovation and utilizing technology to make a difference in everyday lives. In his current role, Mark is responsible for defining and executing the IT roadmap for a large nuclear services organization. In his role, Mark works with Syclo partners such as Oracle, Ventureforth, and Motorola to enable mobile technology where it matters most, the front line. And that concludes my housekeeping. So now I'd like to turn it over to our first presenter, Jeff Kleben. Jeff, take it away.
Thank you, Melody. So we're going to start with a brief introduction of Syclo and our Agentry mobile platform, which underlies the solution that Pat Rudolph will then discuss, talking about the solutions that Ventureforth has built on that stack. And most importantly, quickly getting to Mark Andrews so that he can tell us about his real-world experience in applying that solution in the nuclear services industry. So a brief thumbnail about Syclo. Founded in 1995, Syclo is the longest-standing mobile software company with over 200 employees worldwide. And over 750 customers use our technology across 40 different countries. Syclo was created in 1995 to create software that would allow us to extend business systems and data out to mobile devices and to solve all the technical challenges in doing that. Through the course of those 16 years and across those 750 customer deployments, we have innovated that technology to make it easy to extend very complex systems such as what we're going to talk about today with Oracle EAM. And more importantly now, to be able to deploy it on all the new device types that exist. The underlying technology is called Agentry. It is a client-server software platform that solves those technical challenges of integrating to complex, often heterogeneous IT environments, delivering great mobile user experiences on a broad range of devices, and then solving the key issues of having those run natively on the device with full mobile workflow and business logic, independent of connectivity. What makes Syclo different in this area is the development tool that's part of the architecture, and that is an Eclipse plugin that uses a model-driven approach to define the mobile application and all elements of it, and then to be able to render it without writing code or modifying it on all those different devices. This unique approach is one of the reasons that Syclo is the highest rated provider of this technology. Gartner last year in their Magic Quadrant for Mobile Enterprise Application Platforms recognized that Syclo is the strongest executing company in this space, and that we're one of the fastest growing as well. The strength of Syclo's technology is a reflection of all of that experience of deploying with those many customers, and most importantly, having not just strong customers, but more importantly, strong ecosystem of partners. And so today we're going to hear from one of our premier partners that's been with us for over a decade, Ventureforth, who's an expert in taking our agentry platform and creating pre-built, pre-integrated, and configurable applications for the Oracle community. Before I turn it over to Pat, though, I'd like to have Melody execute the survey here to get a little indication about kind of the nature of our audience, and we'll try to tailor the further discussions today to that end. Melody?
Thanks, Jeff. So we'd like to ask everyone to please participate in this poll question. And the question we'd like to ask today is, my company's mobile strategy is A, mature, we're exactly where we want to be. B, evolving, we're getting there but have more to do. C, challenged, we're trying to figure out how and where to start. D, just starting, trying to figure out how and where to start. Or E, not applicable, we decided not to incorporate mobile for now. So we're going to open up this poll question and give you about 15 seconds to answer. All right, and we're just generating the answers right now. Thank you for your responses.
So if we take a look, Melody, at the responses, we have kind of a good cross-section here in the audience today of those who are in areas that aren't deploying mobile, to those who are either just getting started or evolving an existing mobile strategy. And noticeably, we don't have anyone on today's call who's in a mature state, so that basically tells us that you're coming today to learn more about what's happening on the front lines of mobility and some of the techniques and approaches that people are taking to meet those employee and customer mobile requirements. So with that, Pat, I'd like to turn it over to you to tell us a little bit about Ventureforth and continue the discussion.
All right, thanks very much, Jeff. What I'd like to do is take just a couple of minutes and review Ventureforth, a bit about our company, and also the vMobile product suite, which we build on top of the agentry platform to provide pre-integrated, pre-built applications for Oracle. So Ventureforth has been around since 1995. We are a self-funded company based in Atlanta, Georgia in the U.S., but with offices around the world, as well as customers around the world. If you look at our customer base, it's really some of Oracle's marquee customers. These customers include companies like Enterprise Products, which has over 50,000 miles of gas pipelines in the U.S., Stanford University, which is a premier learning institution, several business units within GE. Additionally, we've been selected by some other large organizations such as the U.S. Coast Guard, Alcoa, Smithsonian Institute, and the list goes on. So again, some of Oracle's marquee customers are also Ventureforth customers, selected because we have pre-built and pre-integrated solutions for the Oracle market space. At Ventureforth, we're focused exclusively on extending the functionality, extending the reach of Oracle ERPs, both Oracle and PeopleSoft, to remote and mobile users. One of the benefits of our solution is that we work in connected, partially connected, and fully disconnected modes of operation. So users and technicians can download information to a mobile device, go where the work is, even offline from the network, perform that work, and then synchronize back to Oracle when they're back in the network coverage. Just as a bit of a testament to our financial strength, again, because we're a private company, for the last 3 years running, we have been named to the Inc. 5000 fastest growing private companies list in America, with some pretty respectable sales growth in a fairly down economy. This is a testament not only to the product suite, but also to the customers who are deploying it and on the technology on which we're built. So what we provide are a suite of applications which we loosely term vMobile suite. That's an umbrella term that covers our point applications, vWork, vStores, vField, vAudit, vApproval, and vFleet, which are specific applications tied to eBusiness and PeopleSoft modules that extend specific functionality. So vWork, as the name implies, is for work order management, tied to either Oracle EAM or PeopleSoft Maintenance Manager. vStores is for inventory control. vField is field service. vAudit is for auditing assets, either in fixed assets or EAM. vApproval is for doing any of the Oracle workflow approvals out to remote users on smartphones. And then vFleet is our newest application, which is for fleet maintenance and vehicle maintenance. So again, these are out-of-the-box applications. These are pre-built and pre-integrated to Oracle. What we're not selling is just a toolkit and a bunch of consulting hours so that you can build it yourself. Although it's pre-built, the product is highly configurable. So we can tailor the interface, the mobile screens, to match your business processes. Again, all using pre-built connectors into Oracle. But the screens themselves will match your business flows so that it's very simple to use for the users. And that's our goal, is to make it as easy to use as possible. Because we're built on this industry standard platform of Syclo agentry, we can do implementations very quickly, often in weeks instead of months. We are certified on Oracle eBusiness Suite 11.5.10 and higher, as well as having achieved Oracle validated integration for PeopleSoft. So within Ventureforth, we've been working with Oracle for quite a number of years. We have integration expertise across several modules of eBusiness Suite. EAM is our bread and butter, as is inventory, field service, purchasing, HR, WMS for warehouse management, and even complex maintenance, repair and overhaul for doing aircraft and locomotive and other complex maintenance. On the PeopleSoft side, we integrate with PeopleSoft Maintenance Manager. We have applications for HR approvals and for financial applications. But we also work with other Oracle applications outside of eBusiness Suite, including WebLogic Server, which is our interface into our middleware platform, and then also AutoView, which allows us to attach drawings, CAD drawings, and documents to the work order, allowing the technician to do markups in the field and then attach those back to the work order when they're complete. I think on the right-hand side, the key point I would make is that we are built on Oracle's tech stack. Although Syclo gives us the interface on the mobile device and handles the mobile plumbing, if you will, all the radio communications and security over the mobile interface, from the middleware server back into Oracle, it's all built on the Oracle tech stack. So we're using standard Oracle APIs. We use interface tables where necessary. We use web services to get into PeopleSoft and some other applications. But one of the benefits of Ventureforth's applications is that we can tie into legacy and third-party applications as well. And we can do that simultaneously and seamlessly from the user's perspective. So as an example, we have some customers who will perform work order management in Oracle EAM, but they want to record their time in Kronos or PeopleSoft HR. And with the Ventureforth solution, we have the ability to fork that data transparently from the mobile server to different back-end systems. So the user only sees one screen. They input their data from a very common interface, very simple to use interface. They don't really care where the data is going on the back end, and we try to make that as seamless as possible. Really, our goal is to simplify the user's experience with Oracle on something as simple as move orders. Within the Oracle interface, there are several screens you have to go through, and a lot of this is because Oracle allows a lot of flexibility. So they're covering a lot of possibilities for different customers. It can be overwhelming to some of the users, however. So we're able to take processes such as move orders to something as simple as a mobile device. In this example, I'm showing one of our mobile devices, again doing the move order functions. Very easy to use. We can support barcode scanning of the items or the assets, allowing single screen or two screen interfaces to perform this function. In this case, I'm showing a specific device that was made for industrial applications. You'll notice it's white because it's also disinfectant capable, meaning it can perform, it can withstand very harsh disinfectant scrub downs. which you might imagine is important in the nuclear environment. So that's one of the reasons we chose to show it on this screen. But again, we support over 800 different devices, everything from Windows mobile devices, ruggedized barcode scanners, to tablet devices, to smartphones, iPhones, Android, etc., tablets, laptops, kiosks. So a wide variety of mobile platforms to choose from, really based on the customer's requirements. And with that overview, I'd like to turn it over to Mark Andrews, who will give his testimonial.
Thank you, Pat. As Pat indicated, my name is Mark Andrews. I'm representing a fairly large vendor in the nuclear industry. We provide both equipment and services throughout the United States and throughout the world. I joined the company about 18 months ago, and when I joined, we had no mobile initiative or really mobile direction. And I noticed during the survey that many of you answered either C, D, or E, indicating that you're in the same situation. You're either just getting started or potentially struggling with the technologies and the directions to go. And it is a very dynamic technology right now, and hopefully my presentation, the decisions we've made, and so forth will help you, and there'll definitely be time for questions and answers at the end. So just a little bit of background on who we are and what we do. As I indicated, our company does both reactor technology, such as building power plants and developing nuclear fuel, but most of my focus is going to be on the nuclear services, in particular field services. And for our industry, we don't send a single technician into the field in a dispatch mode to go repair something. For us, it's all about the outage. Our customers will shut down a reactor for anywhere from 2 weeks to several months in order to provide a number of services, fuel replacements, inspections, modifications, uprates, and we will put anywhere from 50 to 200 technicians on site, basically the entire duration. And of course, time is money. The entire time that reactor is down, it's not generating revenue for the power plant. So execution has to be flawless, and the timing also is very important. So there are some unique business drivers for us and the nuclear industry, but I think you can draw parallels to them in most every other industry. You hear me talking about minimizing dosage, and basically that means the exposure to low-level radioactivity that our technicians will incur while on site doing outages, and also at our home location where we do a lot of refurbishment of our tooling. When I say tooling, I'm really speaking to the assets or the tools that we use to perform the outage work. As you might imagine, it's very customized and unique to our industry. And then, of course, our processes and some of the compliance that we have to adhere to make some of what we do maybe a little bit more complex than what you would find in some industries. As far as our current process, at a high level, it's not that unique. And I think, as you'll see later as I speak to this, our process when we went mobile didn't change that much. It really just helped to accelerate our process and ensure that our process is complied with. And I think that's probably been one of the great lessons learned, is that your process doesn't have to change so much, which helps with the learning curve. Your users can focus on learning, the devices and the new technology you're providing them without necessarily having to completely rethink how they do their work. Just getting in a little more detail, while we are certainly interested in productivity, and I think everyone's interested in improving productivity. For us, when we reduce the amount of time it takes a technician to perform a task, we're also reducing their dose exposure. That's something that we measure on a daily basis. Each technician actually has a threshold that they have to stay within on an annual basis. That's measured and tracked very closely. So if we're able to reduce the amount of time they spend performing their task, and therefore reduce the dose exposure, we're basically prolonging the amount of time that technician can work in the field, and it makes them happier, makes us happier, and certainly our customers. So as far as why to go mobile, for a lot of the reasons I've spoke to, certainly to improve productivity, but to reduce that dose rate, to improve compliance, give us more digital records and less reliance on paper and then having to transcribe that paper into a digital record. And then also to help with our human observation program. Again, in our industry, given the criticality of it, we also have personnel that are performing an HU role or human observation role where they're basically documenting and recording the actions of another. And by digitizing that, we're able to track that information in a more real-time nature and react to it more quickly. Again, as I mentioned, by being real-time, today our process being very paper-based or historically paper-based, we were dependent upon collecting that data, then having technicians go sit down at a keyboard and enter it in. Oftentimes that data gets entered in several days after it was actually collected, so it really hinders our ability to perform business intelligence on it, look for trends and do analysis or spot any types of problems. So by going mobile, digitizing that information, even if it's not real time and you're working offline, you still have the ability to synchronize during shift changes and get access to that information much more quickly than you would in a paper environment. So I'll walk you through a little bit of our evaluation criteria, and I think this is where it really starts to get interesting because there are a lot of things that have to be taken into consideration when looking at going mobile. And if you answered on the survey D or E, I'll tell you you're behind. Mobile is definitely something that's starting to take the marketplace by storm. I read a Forrester report recently that by the middle of 2013, mobile devices will exceed the number of desktop devices. And we're certainly finding in our marketplace that our competitors are starting to show up with more mobile devices. That's one of the things that's driven us to make sure that we're keeping pace in the eyes of our customers, that we're keeping up. So for our business, we're heavily entrenched with the Oracle e-Business Suite. So when we started looking at mobile, we definitely wanted to be able to integrate with our enterprise. And you hear the term MEEP a lot of times, mobile-enabled application platform. I mean, when you're looking at mobile, don't just think about it as something you download from iTunes and it runs on a handheld and you basically refer to it for information. You really need to think about it being in terms of transaction-based, your business process, and integrating with your entire enterprise. So for us, that meant Oracle. Our user community, again, is technicians. They're extremely well trained in terms of the technical knowledge they need for our industry, but they're not necessarily that computer savvy. So we wanted something that's very intuitive, very consistent, and that we could rely upon them to utilize without much pushback. And then, of course, the ability to work offline. Obviously, nuclear power plants aren't built in urban areas, so they're typically in areas where there's very poor coverage. And then inside the actual plant itself, because of you've got 12-foot thick cement walls and so forth, there's no signal. And customers are oftentimes very apprehensive about allowing us to get access to their network, so we're dependent upon working in an offline mode. And then, of course, the platform. This can become very troubling oftentimes. And, right now I'll tell you, as you see, every time you turn on your TV or look at Google News, you see that there's somebody announcing a new handheld device or a new tablet. So we wanted to take that into consideration as well. So when we started making our decisions, I actually reached out to Oracle somewhat naively, assuming that Oracle, being one of the largest businesses on the planet, surely they would have a mobile solution that they could just sell us and it would solve all my problems. And I quickly found out that's not the case. Just my opinion, Oracle doesn't have a very strong mobile story to tell. And I think they've done some improvements with their latest version, R12, but given the size of our business, it's going to be a while before we can upgrade to R12. So actually, Oracle referred us to a company called Ventureforth, who Pat just gave an overview for. And as we started to, discuss our needs with Ventureforth, really the thing we found there is they do an excellent job of integrating with Oracle. That's their forte. They've got the pre-canned interfaces to all the Oracle eBusiness Suite APIs, and then you combine that with Syclo's ability to work in an offline mode, combined with its platform independence, kind of solved all the pieces of the puzzle that I went through on the previous slide. Integration of Oracle, platform independence, working offline. And then, of course, we've selected the MC75 as the device that we'll utilize. We've had great success with it so far. We have a sister business that has used that device as well. And but we are staying open to many other devices. And I'll say that cost is certainly a driver there. We're starting to take into consideration, even devices that we could dispose of. So as opposed to going to a hardened device, maybe something that if it does break, it doesn't matter that much, throw it away and just replace it. So before going, mobile, some of the things we went through, at the time our asset management system, or the system that we managed our tooling on, was a homegrown system. We've since replaced that with Oracle EAM, Enterprise Asset Management, and found that to be a very good process. It's met our needs. We've leveraged the quality plan capability, or really the collection plan capability of Oracle EAM to handle some of the customizations that we needed. Another key technology that plays a major role in our solution is the use of the quick read barcodes, or QR codes. And you see a picture of one there. You're starting to see these show up in a lot of advertising magazines. We're actually using a laser to etch these codes onto our tooling so that we can use the handhelds to scan that code in and get information about the assets to prevent the technicians from having a hand enter that. And so we're hoping that this is actually going to reduce the amount of actual manual data entry significantly. And then, of course, we're starting in-house and utilizing this technology in-house to refine it, work out any issues that we may have before actually rolling it out into the field, where we're likely to deal with other logistical type issues. So we're kind of walking before we run. And then we've identified kind of our early adopters. When you're dealing with a group of technicians that they've done the same thing the same way for a number of years, there's going to be obviously pushback and resistance to that technology. So we've tried to identify some can-do individuals that will embrace the technology, learn it. We're providing them extra training, and then we're looking to them to really lead by example with their peer group. So as far as some benefits that we're seeing and also hope to see as we go forward is, as I mentioned, our process has not changed that much, but what we've done is remove a lot of the excuses that were being used for why the process wasn't followed as thoroughly or quickly as it should have been. Those excuses were oftentimes, why isn't this report filed? Well, I've got the data and it's on my clipboard. I just haven't had time to sit down and type it all in. Well, now that's no longer an excuse. They basically have the ability to use a handheld and scan this information. A great example is one of our requirements. We have a number of warehouses, and these warehouses are containers that contain a lot of our equipment. It's contaminated, and so the NRC requires us to keep a very close check on where everything is stored. So we have to go in and perform a physical inventory of all these warehouses. In the past, the way that was done was by going in with a clipboard and writing down the ID of every container and its location. Then the technician would go back to their desk and type all that into an Excel spreadsheet and print it out. Then they would run a report from our asset management system that said where everything was located, and they would literally sit there and eyeball the two of them and look for any discrepancies. So now we're able to go in with the handheld and perform the transaction and go through and scan using the barcodes, scan each of the devices or each of the containers. We actually scan the location itself. That's one of the things that we've entered into our system, is all of our locations. That then creates a digital report for us. That's a variance report that shows us everything that's in that warehouse that shouldn't be, according to the plan of record, or anything that's missing from the warehouse. And of course, typically that variance report is very short, or there's nothing that shows up on it. But we still have to go through that process. And as you can see, now we're able to do it in real time, and we're able to do it with one technician, where we typically require 2 to 3 people. And that kind of gets to the next point is, from a productivity and dose reduction standpoint, before one person would stand there with a clipboard, write information down, another one would go around and go up to the containers and read off the IDs. Someone would have to write that down, then someone else would go and type it in. So we've basically taken what was 2 to 3 people job and boiled it down to one person who can not only do it as one person, but do it in a much quicker period of time. And then, the other thing is, even though we work in an offline mode a lot of times, still our process status and the data are in sync. Even if we're synchronizing that on every shift change, it's much more real time to us than it was previously, and gives our management the ability to run reports and feel much more confident in the information that they're analyzing. So again, just some summary of some of the benefits. The ease of tracking our assets, using the unique ID on them, the barcodes, and then having technology that makes it very easy to not only read it, but to do so in a basically an error-proof manner by using the QR codes. Much less time spent in radioactive environments, so that being the benefit as well as the productivity improvement, and then just the accurate metrics and data reporting. Much more focused now on analyzing the data and acting based upon that data, as opposed to putting most of the effort into collecting the data. So some real benefits for us. So some lessons learned. As I mentioned when I started out, technology is changing fast. If you're in IT and you're developing any type of system right now, you should be doing it with a mobile-first mindset. Even if your intent isn't to use it in a mobile environment initially, you should be thinking about mobile, thinking about what users in your organization are going to want access to the data within that system, and designing that data set, and designing your transactions, and designing everything with a mobile-first mindset. Because much of the technology is changing quickly, in particular the hardware platforms, looking for that platform independence is important. It'd be a shame to go out and do a lot of development for a particular device to only find out that that device has been replaced with something in 2 years, but you still haven't depreciated all the software investment that you've made into supporting that one platform. So independence is crucial. And then recognizing that, different roles will require different devices. Your executives are going to be using iPhones perhaps, to where your technicians maybe are using a ruggedized device. And of course, something we're starting to look at is, iPhones or iTouches. In particular, the iTouch you can buy for $200. We're actually experimenting with potentially using it in some type of hardened case. And if it does become broke, we'll just dispose of it. You can typically buy that device for about 1/10 of what some of your other hardened devices, like the MC75 that I pointed to earlier. So we're experimenting with what really makes the most sense there. So again, future plans. We're continuing to do our transition off of our homegrown system. We're going to be utilizing our Wi-Fi on site for our communications and synchronization, with plans to go to to other technologies, even looking at experimenting with Bluetooth in some scenarios. And then currently we're primarily using iOS devices and Windows-based devices. But the Android device is something we expect to start taking a look at. Certainly there are probably more diverse devices than Android on the market. So again, we want to stay very flexible with regards to the devices that we're using. So while we're using it in-house and primarily on our large campus right now, we do plan to roll this out to the field next year and use it in a much more broad fashion. So that really concludes my portion of it. I'm going to turn it back over to Melody at this point, and she'll open it up for questions and answers.
Thank you, Mark. At this time, we'd like to open up the session up for Q&A. We are still accepting questions, so feel free to use the Q&A box on your screen. In the meantime, I will start with the questions we have already received. So this first one is for Pat. Pat, could you answer, does Ventureforth support both RFID as well as barcodes?
Yes, we do, Melody. So to us, either RFID or barcodes are just different types of input mechanisms to the mobile device. In addition to that, we can take inputs from other ancillary devices such as GPS readings, cameras if you want to take before and after pictures of the work. A lot of different input mechanisms to get data into the device and then obviously back into Oracle on the back end.
Okay, great. Thank you. Mark, we have a question here for you. What tools other than Oracle do you use to conduct an outage project, and what potential do you see to extend them with mobile?
Okay. Yes, so good question. Some other tools we use is I'd say primarily homegrown tools for our observation program. So we have a number of tick sheets or checklists that we must go through, and historically much of that has been done manually, again, with printed paper, and then that data gets correlated. So we're actually looking at utilizing, again, potentially Ventureforth and the data collection plans component of Oracle. So again, so that our data, it's very lightweight when it really comes to the Oracle piece of it, but it's probably the most generic and in many ways flexible component of the Oracle software suite, and that you can design your collection plans. And then Ventureforth has worked with us to render those so that they basically appear to the user pretty much identical to the printed paper version. They can now use a stylus and go through and check off items and record that data. And the benefit, of course, to us is it's all digitized and collect immediately. There are a lot of other, kind of as Pat just alluded to, devices that we use on site, such as a dosimeter, which is a device that electronically reads the amount of dose. A lot of these devices are Bluetooth enabled. And so in order to kind of get the data from these other periphery devices, into our system, we're looking at using their Bluetooth communications capability to communicate to the handheld that the technician is using to gather data. Anytime we can eliminate having the technician have to type data in or use their hands to enter that data, not only does it make it more efficient for them, but it reduces the likelihood of making a mistake. So there's a lot of potential there. A lot of your instrumentation out there today is Bluetooth enabled, and we believe we can get pretty much to the point that technicians won't have to enter any data in the future.
Great. Thank you so much, Mark. Jeff, we have a question. I was hoping you could answer this one. What types of devices are you seeing customers deploy today, and has that really changed from what they did about 3 or 4 years ago?
Yeah, it's a good question. If you look at the types of solutions we're deploying, they range across 3 categories. One is the type that Mark's told us about today, which we would describe kind of as a B2E or business to employee. It's usually to mobilize a particular process like work management or supply chain or sales. But there are 2 other classes as well, and one is what we think of as productivity apps. These are lightweight apps for doing quick-hitting things like an HR request, a leave request, a purchase order approval. And more recently, it's going all the way out to the customer, whether it's an internal customer, a business partner, or even your end customer. We're seeing those applications be extended to them as well. So what's happened in the B2E side is that's traditionally been special purpose devices such as the MC75 that we've looked at today, and laptops and rugged devices based on different Windows OSs. And that's continuing because those are really have great capabilities of durability and integrated scanning and some other characteristics that make them really great. But we're seeing it augmented that now we're often finding customers who are doing a second device or a third device. They may have a MC75, but they also have a phone. And so they're starting to look to deliver part of that functionality in the phone as well as the device. And then we're starting to reach a new group of customers with the latest advent of tablets, really spearheaded by the iPad, but very quickly being supplemented by Android tablets. Again, both the commercial versions that you're familiar with from, say, Samsung and Motorola, their Zoom. But what's really exciting in the last 6 months has been the advent of some ruggedized Android-based tablets from companies like Motorola and Panasonic. And so we're definitely seeing a diversification of the device deployment spectrum, that it is not moving away from one type of device. It's simply more devices that have to be supported in the enterprise. And obviously the bulk of those new devices are running the smartphone OSs like iOS, Android, BlackBerry, et cetera. So I think that has been the real big change, and it's really come on strong in the last 12 months. And I think the reason that's happened is because in the past when we talked about using those types of commercial smartphone devices and these types of solutions, people felt they wouldn't be appropriate. It would be something that either the mobile worker wouldn't be used to and would be reluctant to use, or they'd simply be too lightweight and they'd break and not survive. And what's changed is that today, as of Christmas, half of the mobile phone users in the United States are using a smartphone. So now that target mobile worker in our customer base more and more is not just not afraid of the device. They use one in their personal lives and actually welcome getting applications on it, because if they use an iPhone, they know how to use an iPhone. So they've learned those apps, and if you give them a business app on it, it's very easy for them to take that on. But it's also coming from the top down. Senior management at most of our customers are using iPads, Android devices, and BlackBerries, and so they see the value of it. So you have kind of a perfect storm that's coming both from the bottom up from the mobile workforce and from the top down from senior management. So the big shift I've seen is really the explosion in the way that people are finding use for these new commercial devices, either in lieu of or to supplement their traditional, special purpose devices they've deployed in the past.
Okay, great. Thank you so much, Jeff. Mark, we have another question here for you. You had talked about it before about the improvement of your productivity. Can you talk maybe a little bit more about what you saw pre-mobile and post-mobile, and how maybe that real-time data that you now had going mobile affected your warehouse and inventory?
Sure. Yeah, I can't say that it's affected our inventory per se, but certainly what it's affected is, I can give you a few examples. I mean, one I gave is, when we take the inventory, if you will, of the warehouse itself for what's in there, that used to be a 3-person job. It's a 1-person job now, and it's a 1-person job where we get the data pretty much instantly. In other scenarios, what we're finding where we found big savings is, we quite frankly used to lose some fairly expensive tooling, or lose track of it, I should say, and not know necessarily what location, what warehouse, what site it was in. And now that we've not only digitized everything in EAM, but we have an easy method of tracking it, that's no longer happening. So a lot of savings in terms of that cost of quality being eliminated. I don't have any great metrics for how many headcount reductions or anything of that nature. We don't really try to think in those terms, but I will say it's been streamlined significantly, and we've seen some real improvements in like our quality metrics and reduction we call defects. Anytime an order gets delivered incorrectly or anything in that nature, we've seen some good improvement there.
Thanks, Mark. And I think to conclude our Q&A session, I just have one more question for you, Mark. Can you maybe talk a little bit more about your offline capabilities for your techs and how that works and how the data still is up to date and real time?
So, Melody, can you repeat the first part of the question?
Yeah, can you just explain more about how the offline capability of this works?
Yes, okay, yeah. So basically, that was one of the key things to us, is to be able to work offline. So if a technician has a handheld, it basically contains a lot of the data, if you will, on that handheld that will also be mirrored, for lack of a better term, within your database. So if they need access to some of that database, some of that data, they can still gain that access even if they're offline. And a lot of that goes into when you first do your design and when we work with Ventureforth and so forth, identifying what that information was. So let's say at the beginning of the day that, the technician turns on his device, he's got a connection, his data is synchronized, he goes into an area where he loses signal. He can still access data, he can still scan information, enter data, perform work orders, complete work orders, and then he perhaps walks outside where he's got a signal again. He can automatically synchronize now that information, and he'll get not only accurate, updated information to his device, but the information he's entered will go to the Oracle database. And then, first question that come to mind for me was, well, how do you keep from, two technicians stepping on each other or editing the same information and so forth? I think really that's kind of the secret sauce, if you will, that Syclo brings is, I've actually implemented or attempted to implement systems like that myself before, and that's the tough part to solve, and I think that's the part that Syclo has done a great job of solving that synchronization problem, preventing the users from stepping on each other, and making sure your data is always accurate. So it's that's definitely something you should think seriously about anytime you have that offline requirement, is making sure you're confident you've got a solution for keeping your data synchronized.
And maybe, Mark, if maybe you could also explain that paper-based process, that scenario you talked about where they leave a contained area and then it's going to update the information. With the paper-based process, what was the time lag about, how did that information about how long they spent, what their dosage level is and their activities, how did they record that, on paper, and then what were the time lags and the handling issues involved in getting that in? So maybe the audience can understand what that time compression is like when you go to mobile.
Sure. So let's take going into the warehouse where you've got probably about a 20,000 square foot warehouse with a few hundred large containers. When I say containers, fairly large C-van type containers stacked up on shelves, and you've got 2 to 3 technicians that go in to take that inventory. Traditionally they would spend a day going in and taking that inventory. One person kind of crawling around shouting out the IDs on the containers, another one writing it down. And then, one problem you would have is potentially they didn't go back to their desk and type all that in. They may have let it sit on their desk a couple of days before they typed it into the system. So, certainly you could see a couple day lag in that particular case. But, the improvement is then you now have one person that can go in and do that because they're doing the scanning. What used to take a day, it takes them a couple of hours to perform. And now there's no longer that need to go sit down and enter that information or do the reconciliation that takes place. So you're really from a start to finish time frame. You're eliminating 2 to 3 days, and from that dose reduction and just the number of people involved, it's one person instead of 2 to 3 people. So some great savings, and that's the type of things that really thrills our business leaders is when they can kind of start understanding and seeing how this gets applied and how it benefits them. They jump on board real quick.
Thanks, Mark. I think we're going to end with just one last question really quick. Pat, if you could answer this, and maybe Jeff, if you have any comments after. But Pat, could you give us your insight on explosion-proof mobile devices?
Right. Well, Melody, I saw the question, and I'm assuming that refers to intrinsically safe mobile devices, which are used in hazardous and spark, explosive environments. So both Ventureforth and Syclo support a number of intrinsically safe or IS devices used primarily in offshore oil and gas and other hazardous environments where the mobile device just can't have any spark that would start an explosion or a fire. So there's a wide variety of devices that we do support that are already certified with the platforms.
And I would add to that, we have a lot of customers in the oil and gas industry, as Pat said, where that's needed. And what I've seen over the last 10 years is there's been a real paucity of devices in this area because it's such a specialty area. The manufacturers can't often justify the expense of creating a unique version that could meet either in the U.S., either the Class 1 or the Class 2 specifications. And what I've seen, though, is lately we're starting to see, I think, better choice in that area. I know one of our clients is BP, who's constantly looking at the market to try to identify those types of devices. And what I understand from the meeting I had with them last month is that they actually think there's some improving options in that area. But I think that's been a sore spot, among customers who need that, and those are basically those are mobile workers who work in environments that have some type of incendiary capability, whether it's a refinery with open hydrocarbons, or you'll see it also in environments where you have high dust content that's potentially flammable. So I think you have, if that's an area that you're looking into, it's probably really important to try to network into that community, because these are often small specialty manufacturers that have them, and it can be kind of difficult to find the best device. And that's part of, by the way, what we focus on. As Pat said, the agentry platform is about solving that device choice. So we allow, the idea is that agentry lets a company like Ventureforth create a mobile extension of Oracle, and then it ensures that it runs on a broad array of devices. So we're constantly communicating with the manufacturers and with our customers to find out what are those best devices, and that's one of the benefits that we bring to our partner and customer ecosystem, is helping them network and figure out what's the best device for the job they're trying to perform. And no matter how good the software is and everything else, the device is an integral part of that user experience, and if you get that wrong, then your project can suffer as a result of that.
All right, thank you, Jeff, and thank you, Mark and Pat, as well, for answering all these great questions that we got in today. Unfortunately, that is all the time that we have for the Q&A session. If we did not get to your question today, we will have someone follow up with you later about your inquiry. Again, we'd like to thank everyone for joining today's webcast, and a big thank you to Mark for sharing his story with us. We will be sending the link of today's presentation, including the slides and the audio, after the webcast. So please look out for it in your email, and feel free to either review it again or share it with your colleagues. That concludes our webcast today, so thanks everyone for joining, and have a great day.